Adolf Hitler, German, Adolf Hitler, listen, April 20, 1889 to April 30, 1945, was an Austrian-born German politician who was the dictator of Germany from 1933 until his suicide in 1945. He rose to power as the leader of the Nazi Party, becoming the Chancellor in 1933 and then taking the title of Führer und Reichskanzler in 1934. During his dictatorship, he initiated World War II in Europe by invading Poland on September 1, 1939. He was closely involved in military operations throughout the war and was central to the perpetration of the Holocaust, the genocide of about 6 million Jews and millions of other victims. Hitler was born in Braunau am Inn in Austria-Hungary and was raised near Linz. He lived in Vienna later in the first decade of the 1900s and moved to Germany in 1913. He was decorated during his service in the German army in World War I. In 1919, he joined the German Workers' Party, DAP, the precursor of the Nazi Party, and was appointed leader of the Nazi Party in 1921. In 1923, he attempted to seize governmental power in a failed coup in Munich and was imprisoned with a sentence of 5 years. In jail, he dictated the first volume of his autobiography and political manifesto Mein Kampf, My Struggle. After his early release in 1924, Hitler gained popular support by attacking the Treaty of Versailles and promoting pan-Germanism, anti-Semitism and anti-communism with charismatic oratory and Nazi propaganda. He frequently denounced international capitalism and communism as part of a Jewish conspiracy. By November 1932, the Nazi Party held the most seats in the German Reichstag but did not have a majority. As a result, no party was able to form a majority parliamentary coalition in support of a candidate for chancellor. The former Chancellor Franz von Papen and other conservative leaders persuaded President Paul von Hindenburg to appoint Hitler as Chancellor on January 30, 1933. Shortly after, the Reichstag passed the Enabling Act of 1933, which began the process of transforming the Weimar Republic into Nazi Germany, a one-party dictatorship based on the totalitarian and autocratic ideology of Nazism. On August 2, 1934, Hindenburg died and Hitler replaced him as the head of state and government. Hitler aimed to eliminate Jews from Germany and establish a new order to counter what he saw as the injustice of the post-World War I international order dominated by Britain and France. His first 6 years in power resulted in rapid economic recovery from the Great Depression, the abrogation of restrictions imposed on Germany after World War I, and the annexation of territories inhabited by millions of ethnic Germans, which initially gave him significant popular support. Hitler sought Lebensraum, lit. Living space, for the German people in Eastern Europe, and his aggressive foreign policy is considered the primary cause of World War II in Europe. He directed large-scale rearmament and, on September 1, 1939, invaded Poland, resulting in Britain and France declaring war on Germany. In June 1941, Hitler ordered an invasion of the Soviet Union. In December 1941, he declared war on the United States. By the end of 1941, German forces and the European Axis powers occupied most of Europe and North Africa. These gains were gradually reversed after 1941, and in 1945 the Allied armies defeated the German army. On April 29, 1945, he married his longtime lover, Eva Braun, in the Führerbunker in Berlin. Less than 2 days later, the couple committed suicide to avoid capture by the Soviet Red Army. Their corpses were burned as Hitler had commanded. The historian and biographer Ian Kershaw describes Hitler as the embodiment of modern political evil. For under Hitler's leadership and racist ideology, the Nazi regime was responsible for the genocide of about 6 million Jews and millions of other victims, whom he and his followers deemed Untermenschen, subhumans, or socially undesirable. Hitler and the Nazi regime were also responsible for the killing of an estimated 19.3 million civilians and prisoners of war. In addition, 28.7 million soldiers and civilians died as a result of military action in the European theater. The number of civilians killed during World War II was unprecedented in warfare, and the casualties constitute the deadliest conflict in history. Ancestry. Main article, Hitler family. Hitler's father, Alois Hitler, 1837–1903, was the illegitimate child of Maria Anna Schicklgruber V. The baptismal register did not show the name of his father, and Alois initially bore his mother's surname, Schicklgruber. In 1842, Johann Georg Heidler married Alois's mother. Alois was brought up in the family of Heidler's brother, Johann Nepomuk Heidler VI. In 1876, Alois was made legitimate and his baptismal record annotated by a priest to register Johann Georg Heidler as Alois's father, recorded as George Hitler. 78 Alois then assumed the surname Hitler, 8 also spelled Heidler, Hutler, or Hütler. The name is probably based on the German word Hut, lit, hut, and likely has the meaning one who lives in a hut. 9. Nazi official Hans Frank suggested that Alois's mother had been employed as a housekeeper by a Jewish family in Graz, and that the family's 19-year-old son Leopold Frankenberger had fathered Alois. 10 No Frankenberger was registered in Graz during that period, No record has been produced of Leopold Frankenberger's existence. 11 and Jewish residency in Styria had been illegal for nearly 400 years and would not become legal again until decades after Aloysius' birth 1112, so historians dismiss the claim that Aloysius' father was Jewish. 1314. Early years. Childhood and education. Adolf Hitler as an infant, c. 1889-90. Hitler's father, Alois, c. 1900. Hitler's mother, Clara, 1870s. Adolf Hitler was born on April 20, 1889 in Braunau am Inn, a town in Austria-Hungary, in present-day Austria, close to the border with the German Empire. 1516 he was the fourth of 6 children born to Alois Hitler and his third wife, Clara Paulsloh. 3 of Hitler's siblings Gustav, Ida, and Otto died in infancy. 17 also living in the household were Alois's children from his second marriage, Alois Jr., born 1882, and Angela, born 1883. 18 When Hitler was 3, the family moved to Passau, Germany. 19 There he acquired the distinctive Lower Bavarian dialect, rather than Austrian German, which marked his speech throughout his life. 2021-22 The family returned to Austria and settled in Leonding in 1894, and in June 1895 Alois retired to Hayfeld, near Lambach, where he farmed and kept bees. Hitler attended Volksschule, a state-funded primary school, in nearby Fischlham. 23-24. The move to Hayfeld coincided with the onset of intense father-son conflicts caused by Hitler's refusal to conform to the strict discipline of his school. 25 His father beat him, although his mother tried to protect him. 26 Alois Hitler's farming efforts at Hayfeld ended in failure, and in 1897 the family moved to Lambach. The 8-year-old Hitler took singing lessons, sang in the church choir, and even considered becoming a priest. 27 In 1898 the family returned permanently to Leonding. Hitler was deeply affected by the death of his younger brother Edmund, who died in 1900 from measles. Hitler changed from a confident, outgoing, conscientious student to a morose, detached boy who constantly fought with his father and teachers. 28. Alois had made a successful career in the Customs Bureau and wanted his son to follow in his footsteps. 29 Hitler later dramatized an episode from this period when his father took him to visit a customs office, depicting it as an event that gave rise to an unforgiving antagonism between father and son, who were both strong-willed. 30-31-32 Ignoring his son's desire to attend a classical high school and become an artist, Alois sent Hitler to the Realschule in Linz in September 1900. C-33. Hitler rebelled against this decision, and in Mein Kampf states that he intentionally did poorly in school, hoping that once his father saw what little progress I was making at the technical school he would let me devote myself to my dream. 34. Like many Austrian Germans, Hitler began to develop German nationalist ideas from a young age. 35 He expressed loyalty only to Germany, despising the declining Habsburg monarchy and its rule over an ethnically variegated empire. 36-37 Hitler and his friends used the greeting Heil, and sang the Deutschlandlied instead of the Austrian imperial anthem. 38. After Alois's sudden death on January 3, 1903, Hitler's performance at school deteriorated and his mother allowed him to leave. 39 He enrolled at the Realschule in Steyr in September 1904, where his behavior and performance improved. 40 In 1905, after passing a repeat of the final exam, Hitler left the school without any ambitions for further education or clear plans for a career. 41. Early adulthood in Vienna and Munich. See also, paintings by Adolf Hitler. The house in Leonding, Austria where Hitler spent his early adolescence, photo taken in July 2012. In 1907, Hitler left Linz to live and study fine art in Vienna, financed by orphans' benefits and support from his mother. He applied for admission to the Academy of Fine Arts Vienna but was rejected twice. 42-43 The director suggested Hitler should apply to the School of Architecture, but he lacked the necessary academic credentials because he had not finished secondary school. 44. On December 21, 1907, his mother died of breast cancer at the age of 47, when he himself was 18. In 1909, Hitler ran out of money and was forced to live a bohemian life in homeless shelters and a men's dormitory. 45-46 He earned money as a casual laborer and by painting and selling watercolors of Vienna sites. 42 During his time in Vienna, he pursued a growing passion for architecture and music, attending 10 performances of Lohengrin, his favorite Wagner opera. 47. The Alterhof in Munich. Watercolor by Adolf Hitler, 1914. It was in Vienna that Hitler first became exposed to racist rhetoric. 48 Populists such as Mayor Karl Lueger exploited the climate of virulent anti-Semitism and occasionally espoused German nationalist notions for political effect. German nationalism had a particularly widespread following in the Mariahilf district, where Hitler lived. 49 George Ritter von Schoonerer became a major influence on Hitler. 50 He also developed an admiration for Martin Luther. 51 Hitler read local newspapers such as Deutsches Volksblatt that fanned prejudice and played on Christian fears of being swamped by an influx of Eastern European Jews. 52 He read newspapers and pamphlets that published the thoughts of philosophers and theoreticians such as Houston Stewart Chamberlain, Charles Darwin, Friedrich Nietzsche, Gustav L. E. Bohn and Arthur Schopenhauer. 53. The origin and development of Hitler's anti-Semitism remains a matter of debate. 54 His friend August Kubizek claimed that Hitler was a confirmed anti-Semite before he left Linz. 55 However, historian Brigitte Hamann describes Kubizek's claim as problematical. 56 While Hitler states in Mein Kampf that he first became an anti-Semite in Vienna. 57 Reinhold Hanisch, who helped him sell his paintings, disagrees. Hitler had dealings with Jews while living in Vienna. 58 59 60 Historian Richard J. Evans states that historians now generally agree that his notorious, murderous anti-Semitism emerged well after Germany's defeat in World War I, as a product of the paranoid stab-in-the-back explanation for the catastrophe. 61 Hitler received the final part of his father's estate in May 1913 and moved to Munich, Germany. 62 When he was conscripted into the Austro-Hungarian army. 63 He journeyed to Salzburg on February 5, 1914 for medical assessment. After he was deemed unfit for service, he returned to Munich. 64 Hitler later claimed that he did not wish to serve the Habsburg Empire because of the mixture of races in its army and his belief that the collapse of Austria-Hungary was imminent. 65 World War I. Main article, Military career of Adolf Hitler. Hitler, far right, seated, with his army comrades of the Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment 16, c. 1914-18. In August 1914, at the outbreak of World War I, Hitler was living in Munich and voluntarily enlisted in the Bavarian Army. 66 According to a 1924 report by the Bavarian authorities, allowing Hitler to serve was almost certainly an administrative error, since as an Austrian citizen, he should have been returned to Austria. 66 Posted to the Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment 16, 1st Company of the List Regiment, 67-66 He served as a dispatch runner on the Western Front in France and Belgium. 68 Spending nearly half his time at the regimental headquarters in Forns en Wepps, well behind the front line. 69-70 He was present at the First Battle of Ypres, the Battle of the Somme, the Battle of Arras, and the Battle of Passchendaele, and was wounded at the Somme. 71 He was decorated for bravery, receiving the Iron Cross, 2nd class, in 1914-71 on a recommendation by Lieutenant Hugo Gutmann, Hitler's Jewish superior. He received the Iron Cross, 1st class on August 4, 1918, a decoration rarely awarded to one of Hitler's Gefreiter rank. 72-73 He received the Black Wound Badge on 18 May 1918. 74 During his service at headquarters, Hitler pursued his artwork, drawing cartoons and instructions for an army newspaper. During the Battle of the Somme in October 1916, he was wounded in the left thigh when a shell exploded in the dispatch runner's dugout. 75 Hitler spent almost 2 months in hospital at Belitz, returning to his regiment on March 5, 1917. 76 On October 15, 1918, he was temporarily blinded in a mustard gas attack and was hospitalized in Pasewalk. 77 While there, Hitler learned of Germany's defeat, and, by his own account, upon receiving this news, suffered a second bout of blindness. 78 Hitler described the war as the greatest of all experiences, and was praised by his commanding officers for his bravery. 79 His wartime experience reinforced his German patriotism, and he was shocked by Germany's capitulation in November 1918. 80 His bitterness over the collapse of the war effort began to shape his ideology. 81 Like other German nationalists, he believed the Dolchstoßlegende, stab-in-the-back myth, which claimed that the German army, undefeated in the field, had been stabbed in the back on the home front by civilian leaders, Jews, Marxists, and those who signed the armistice that ended the fighting, later dubbed the November Criminals. 82 The Treaty of Versailles stipulated that Germany had to relinquish several of its territories and demilitarize the Rhineland. The treaty imposed economic sanctions and levied heavy reparations on the country. Many Germans saw the treaty as an unjust humiliation. They especially objected to Article 231, which they interpreted as declaring Germany responsible for the war. 83 The Versailles Treaty and the economic, social, and political conditions in Germany after the war were later exploited by Hitler for political gain. 84 Entry into politics. Main article, Political views of Adolf Hitler. Hitler's German Workers' Party, DAP, membership card. After World War I, Hitler returned to Munich. 85 Without formal education or career prospects, he remained in the army. 86 In July 1919 he was appointed Verbindungsmann, intelligence agent, of an Aufklärungskommando, reconnaissance unit, of the Reichswehr, assigned to influence other soldiers and to infiltrate the German Workers' Party, DAP. At a DAP meeting on September 12, 1919, Party chairman Anton Drexler was impressed with Hitler's oratorical skills. He gave him a copy of his pamphlet My Political Awakening, which contained anti-Semitic, nationalist, anti-capitalist, and anti-Marxist ideas. 87 On the orders of his army superiors, Hitler applied to join the party. 88 And within a week was accepted as party member. 555 The party began counting membership at 500 to give the impression they were a much larger party. 89 90 Hitler made his earliest known written statement about the Jewish question in a September 16, 1919 letter to Adolf Schmlich, now known as the Schmlich letter. In the letter, Hitler argues that the aim of the government must unshakably be the removal of the Jews altogether. 91 At the DAP, Hitler met Dietrich Eckart, one of the party's founders and a member of the occult Thule Society 92. Eckhart became Hitler's mentor, exchanging ideas with him and introducing him to a wide range of Munich Society 93 to increase its appeal.